In the headlines, Tourism Minister calls on citizens to support local during Staycation 2020. Flight options for Dominica soon to be announced. And the Caribbean Lives Matter plans local event on Saturday to seek justice for Kenny Mitchell, murdered in Anguilla last year. I am Andrea Louis with the Channel 5 News, back with the details after this.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
Thank you for staying with us. First up, a renewed call to the Dominican public to support local and participate in Staycation 2020. Here is Julian Morris with that story.
The call from Minister for Tourism Denise Charles after a visit to the Fort Young Hotel on Friday. This property was the first of many to be visited ahead of the official launching of Staycation 2020. Staycation is among government's efforts to resume operations at hotels and resorts around the country during summer. According to the Minister for Tourism, properties have to be certified by the Discover Dominica Authority and the Ministry of Health as safe and ready for visitors.
DDA has a quality assurance team and also the Ministry of Health Promotion Unit. They are working jointly and they'll be going around to visiting various properties, ensuring that they have put things in place. Once everything is in place according to the protocols, the hotel will receive a certificate that you're certified COVID ready facility. So anyone coming to the hotel will be able to see that this hotel has been certified COVID ready. This is our first stop in the city of Roseau. And so our next stop will probably be in Roseau South. And so we'll be going around the island, not only resorts and hotels, but also restaurants, all stakeholders, facilities. We'll be visiting sites. So it's a journey we are on. And we want everybody to join us on this journey to experience Dominica again.
General Manager of Fort Young Hotel says the hotel is taking all the necessary steps to ensure it is safe to open to the public. The property is hoping to launch its staycation package with 20 rooms.
So in terms of checking and everything, we're looking over regulations that's been mandated by the destination and as well by WHO and CDC. Making sure 6 feet apart, staying 6 feet apart in terms of the dining experiences. And as well, a contactless checking, we're working on an app right now to kind of help you as well to just open your room with a smartphone. And so the whole protocols that we have put in place, for our clients, once we reopen, will be applicable for the staycation. In terms of cleanliness of the room, the hygiene aspect and everything, in terms of staff wearing all the PPEs at all times, so everything will be put in place.
Earlier this year, Fort Young Hotel laid off scores of employees due to the economic impact of COVID-19. The launch of Staycation means hospitality workers across the island will once again be gainfully employed, though not necessarily to full capacity.
It's based on demand, obviously. We as much want to bring our staff back. We as well, the GEMS Group, the holding company of Fort Young, has been taking care of staff. We were one of the hotel but didn't lay off staff until June. We've been trying to keep them engaging, from doing different community projects. We would love to have everybody back if we're able to run the hotel with 40 rooms. But financially, we need to look at the implications as well. Yeah, because right now it's been very difficult. We don't have any reservations on the book since mid-March.
Member of Parliament for Roseau Central Constituency Melissa Skerritt also approved the work being done by Fort Young Hotel to ensure a safe Staycation 2020.
In more top stories, an announcement to be made soon on flight options into Dominica. The COVID-19 pandemic brought to an abrupt halt the operations of Liat 1974 Limited, with the company saying it would suspend passenger service until 15 July 2020. Last month, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, announced that Liat will be liquidated and another airline formed in its stead. With uncertainty hovering over the future of Liat and air travel in the region, Tourism Minister Denise Charles says this may not pose a problem to visitors coming to the country.
The unfortunate news of the liquidation of Liat has caused some anxiety in the market, but I want to make all Dominicans and all potential travelers to Dominica, including Dominican nationals abroad, that the gap that Liat has created has also created opportunity for many other agencies. So right now, the ministry has received over 5 proposals, which we are assessing, and we'll be able to make an announcement once we've completed our assessment. So rest assured, air access to Dominica will not be limited. In fact, it may actually expand.
In more developments, outgoing chairperson of CARICOM and Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, on Friday addressed the region's concerns over plans to liquidate Liat. Mottley was addressing the 20th special meeting of CARICOM heads of government held via Zoom.
There are those of you who are deeply worried about the absence of interregional transport with the news that Liat will be liquidated. Let me say at the outset that this is not an easy decision for any of us. But the reality is that Liat has been, for us, a critical part of our history. It has allowed Caribbean people to move. But there also is a time when those instruments that served us well in the past may not be the right instruments for us going forward. And to that extent, the Board of Directors, because of the heavy debt which Liat has been carrying, not now, but for many, many years, have indicated to us that it is no longer possible to trade as Liat 1974 Limited, and that in truth and in fact, the company is effectively insolvent and that it needs liquidation. They would have done so conscious of the fact that unless you liquidate an insolvent company, directors will be guilty of fraudulent trading. And to that extent, as shareholder governments, we have had to respond simply because to do otherwise would mean providing a level of funding that we simply do not have at this time in the affairs of our community and in the affairs of our nations.
Mottley says the heads of government remain committed to safe, reliable and affordable travel within the region.
I asked the Secretariat to prepare a report for me 2 weeks ago, and they were able to show that there are 38 airlines flying within our Caribbean community, 9 of which come from outside. The remaining 29, agreeably, are predominantly in the Northern Caribbean, and it is therefore within the Southern Caribbean that the greatest gap exists. I am happy to report as Chair of the community and as Prime Minister of Barbados, to my certain knowledge, that since announcements were being made earlier this week about Liat's demise, that 6 airlines have come forward offering to fill the space. SVG Air and One Caribbean out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the chairman, I'm sure, will speak more to that. CAL, which is already an airline known to the region. Inter-Caribbean, which is an airline from the Turks and Caicos and is a successor airline to Air Turks and Caicos and has been around for over 20-something years with an extensive fleet as well. Silver, which we have asked to meet with us over the course of the next few days, and that is an airline out of the United States of America but working within the Caribbean and between the US and the Caribbean. And of course, the Air Antilles, which is French-based, as you know, and predominantly between Martinique, Guadeloupe and Paris, but have an interest now in working within the Southern Caribbean.
Antigua and Barbuda was not represented at Friday's special conference of CARICOM heads. The Antigua government has announced plans to invest between 15 and 20 million US dollars in a new airline which would be called Liat 2020 Limited. The cabinet said Antigua and Barbuda is opposed to the liquidation of Liat 1974 Limited without a plan to create the necessary connectivity which regional integration requires. On to health matters. The National Health Commission has reassured Dominicans that the Dominica China Friendship Hospital will not be privatized. Several new pieces of legislation will be introduced in Parliament in September to establish a new management structure for Dominicans' health delivery system. Bills to be taken to Parliament include the Hospital Authority, medical professionals, nursing professions, and the pharmacy and allied health bills. But former President of Dominica, His Excellency Eliud Williams, says while the new management structure will include a CEO and board, the idea is not to privatize.
We like to refer to it as a national hospital. It is financed by government, and we expect that to continue because, in fact, the world is moving more and more towards universal access. So at no point have any work we've done or have we tried to convey in any way that the hospital is going to be privatized. In fact, it can't be because it is Dominica's hospital.
The CEO will have overall management of the hospital and report to the board appointed by the minister. Currently, the managers at the hospital do not all report to the same person.
One of the major changes that will come in the governance will be a human resource department, which will focus on individuals and their training and discipline and engagement and hiring and recruitment. The other major change will be the creation of a department of engineering. As it stands now, what we have is what is called a maintenance department. In today's day, this really can't work. With CAT scans and MRIs, you really, in terms of biomedical and equipment functioning, equipment procurement, that will be critical. But more so, what we intend to do is to set the trajectory on an accreditation context. So when you do that in the context of accreditation, the standards, the protocols clearly set out the lines of accountability and really create the framework and the environment for people to account for deviations in what should be standards and protocols.
The National Health Commission says it has consulted widely and did not come to its conclusion easily.
We've come to our conclusions having conducted hearings in which we've heard over 100 people, including stakeholders like the Cancer Society and all those persons who use the hospital services. We've come to these conclusions by having community consultations with people who have been in hospital in the districts. Well over 200 people. We've collected that data and had it analyzed. So we have not jumped to conclusions, but we've included people in that. And even more, besides this sensitization, we're really hoping what we can begin to get from the public is feedback and comments.
The new management structure at the Dominica-China Friendship Hospital is expected to be installed by 1st January 2021. You are watching the Channel 5 News. Stay tuned for more after the break.
A new in-home experience is here. All your services bundled into one simple plan. Faster, more reliable Wi-Fi so that you can binge, play, and stream uninterrupted. Unlimited Flow local landline minutes mean you can talk and talk and talk. Plus the best in TV entertainment with over 120 channels and 29 in HD. All for $160 a month with the new all-in bundle. With Flow, it only gets better.
Welcome back. Dominicans being encouraged to stand in solidarity with the Caribbean Lives Matter movement in seeking justice for Kenny Mitchell. Julian Morris explains.
An awareness gathering has been organized by Caribbean Lives Matter movement for Saturday, 4th July, titled Justice for Kenny Mitchell. Dominican Kenny Mitchell was a hotel worker in Anguilla and was found dead in a hotel room in April last year. Spokesperson for the Caribbean Lives Matter movement, Nicole Morrison, says Dominicans should turn out in their numbers to support the cause, as the death of Kenny Mitchell shows that money, power and white privilege extend beyond the United States.
Kenny Mitchell, a black Dominican man who lost his life at the hands of Scott Hapgood, a white investment banker, on the 13th of April 2019 on the island of Anguilla, a British overseas territory. On April 16th, Scott was arrested. He was charged with manslaughter, granted $74,000 bail on the condition that he returns for his future court date. On November 11th, he did not appear for his scheduled court date, a move which essentially saw him forfeit his bail and become an international fugitive. The death of George Floyd has plucked at the wounds of Kenny's family, friends, fellow islanders. The Kenny Mitchell Scott Hapgood saga has shown that money, power, white privilege extends beyond the United States of America, and it needs to be stomped out. No one is above the law.
Saturday's peaceful rally is in no way a protest against the government, police or the judicial system in Dominica, but rather to stand in solidarity with the family of Kenny Mitchell in seeking justice for this death.
We have started a petition for Kenny Mitchell. You can find this petition at Caribbean Lives Matter Facebook page, a petition which was started by Teron Azil, the leader of the Caribbean Lives movement in Anguilla. If you go to our Facebook page, you would find more information. However, we are having an awareness gathering, Justice for Kenny Mitchell, in Dominica Bayfront, Saturday, 4th, 2020. Kenny was a Dominican like every one of us, and we believe that justice delayed is justice denied. It's time to speak up. Unity is strength, and it's time to let our voices be heard for those who can no longer speak for themselves. Join the movement as we seek justice for Kenny Mitchell and speak up for all the voices of men and women who were silenced by police brutality.
Saturday's rally takes place from 4 in the afternoon, and the public is being asked to wear black as a show of support.
And under its new management structure, Dominica's healthcare delivery system is expected to promote the concept that health is a right. Currently, medical care is free to those 18 and under and over 65. Assurances are being given that there will be no discrimination against those who can ill afford quality medical services.
The only public hospital on the island, and the question of payment for service at the point of service will be eliminated. In other words, there will be other mechanisms to pay. So whether you're from Pong or you're from gutter or you can't afford or you've never worked or your grandmother is 80 and you are 20 but you have a job, everybody who enters the hospital will be treated equally and will get the same care that the person who can afford, who has health insurance, will get.
Complaints about the delivery of healthcare services at the hospital are not new. There is the view that a lack of accountability may be partly responsible for a poor service in healthcare delivery.
A nurse who should have rails on the bed of a stroke patient, because that's the right thing to do, that's the unwritten protocol, failing to put that rail and the patient falls over. In the new dispensation, there will have to be a report. Why is it wasn't done? So one thing that would be very different is that staff at the hospital, lab tech, x-ray, doctor, everyone is going to be held responsible against predetermined actions. We are people, we seem comfortable to pick up the phone and call. You are someone who has a complaint to write, there's a difficulty. We will make that easier. We're saying in the new arrangements, there will be a form. If a technician, a doctor, has to respond to a call, that must be documented. The time the call is made, when the doctor or the nurse or the lab tech responded, what action was taken, how it was taken, the time frame, and that has to be reported. And importantly, going forward, nobody in the new arrangement will have a job for life, so to speak. And by that what I mean, it's not that you come in tomorrow morning to work and you're not sure if you're going to have a job. No, that's not what we're saying. There will be legislation that says if you are a professional working at the hospital you will have to have your contract of service renewed periodically.
Renewal of contracts will be based on healthcare providers meeting certain criteria.
You will have to show that you have done certain minimum number of hours of continuing professional education. You have had to make rounds, you have done them. You have had to do a certain number of public patients who need surgery. That's going to have to be done, that's going to have to be recorded. So essentially what you will see in the new arrangement is that people will be empowered. Patients will know they have rights, and those who work to satisfy these needs will have to report on what they do.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
To end the news, the headlines again. Tourism Minister calls on citizens to support local during Staycation 2020. Flight options for Dominica soon to be announced. And the Caribbean Lives Matter plans local event on Saturday to seek justice for Kenny Mitchell, murdered in Anguilla last year. Feel free to access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Andrea Louis. And to all of our viewers around the world, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend.